time, but he is on the pit crew at Eagle Raceway. I know he does Saturday nights. Sometimes the car wrecks, they fix it on Sundays. So that's what he's doing. He'll be back on Labor Day. I hope everybody survived the storms. Not good. It looked like a combat zone, just driving in from my house at about 40th and Old Cheney this afternoon. Producer Brian Streeter is here. How did it look on your way in? That must not be the mic. You said mic 4. I potted up mic 4. We're off to a flying start because the engineers, I walk in and there's a message on the board that says this whole computer system, the drives will shut down in 120 minutes. And that was like 10 minutes ago.
You know, Tom, I think the best thing to say is this storm has left the state in absolute chaos.
It might. Try to move over and see if any of the other mics work better.
Sure.
Just keep talking.
How's
on every
one?
mic.
Hello, everyone.
That one seems to work the best.
Okay, well there we go. I'll stick on this one.
Stay on that one. That's
yes. But no, I lived through the storms. Thankfully, lived to tell the tale. But no, in my small town out by Branched Oak Lake, it was pretty hectic. But it was really nice to see the
lose
community.
Power?
Yes, we did lose power. Funny enough, our neighbor's power line, the entire pole snapped into 3 pieces. And so we went into my grandparents in town. And when we came back to just see how things were going,
right.
I started screaming when I saw my house and my mom didn't know why. And I said, well, our porch light's on. We have power again. This is great.
So you just started screaming.
Yes,
naturally.
exactly.
You had no choice.
A human authentic reaction.
Well, there you go. I'm glad you're okay. I hope everybody else is okay. There were a lot of limbs down in our neighborhood, and as I drove to work today, I saw a lot of limbs down, but looked like everybody was okay. I didn't read about any particular injuries, so that's a pretty good thing. We've got a big show for you guys today. Jim Rose, former voice of Husker football, and he's a Husker historian as well. He followed Kent Pavelka back in the day. He's on the morning show at KFAB. He's also the sports director there, the co-host of the morning show. He's written books about Husker football, so he knows his stuff. And last year, it'll be interesting to see what he predicts this year for a record. Last year, we had him on about this time before the season started. He said 10 wins. I feel pretty good about 10 wins. He was wrong. I picked 10 wins, in part because Jim picked 10 wins. We were both wrong. Nebraska did get to 7, and they did get to a bowl game. Win a couple more close games this year. And I think that Jim might be right. I might be right as well. I don't think I'm going to pick 10, but I do think the ceiling for Husker football is right around 9 and the floor somewhere around 6. I do think that they will get back to a bowl game just like they did last year. Let's get to Husker headlines. We'd like to start the show with them. Here it is, the opening kickoff. I think. It's not there. All right. I guess I'm going to have to do it without. Do you hear the music?
I do not.
Okay. Well, there's no music, so I'll just do the headlines without the music.
I'll give you a soft drum roll if you want.
I kind of anticipate, with the power lines being down, or at least a lot of power lines, a lot of people losing power. Maybe we've lost the power. The computer's acting up. The mics seem to work.
Everything is just in chaos. We can't catch a break here.
There are 18 days left before Nebraska takes the field against Cincinnati at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, 8 p.m. on ESPN, but it's also heard right here on 1400 KLIN and 93.9, Red 93.9. Nebraska football held its first major scrimmage yesterday. Nebraska coach Rule provided kind of a full rundown on practice as well as some injury news. Big news that cornerback Bly Hill and also Gage Stanger, both out for the season. Hill is a cornerback. He re-injured a knee that he injured last year. So 2 years in a row, he has knee problems. And Gage Stanger, who was going to see the field on special teams, also out for the year. Rule says Hill was playing really well before the patella injury that struck him. Rule also says the offense was efficient during the 120-play scrimmage. And he says the tackling needs to improve. In fact, I'll try to play it and see if he's here talking about tackling. No, see, it looks like nothing is working in the studio. I'll keep trying to play it, and we'll see if something plays during the show. But the tackling needs to improve, according to Coach Rule. Australian punter Archie Wilson, who's never played a down of real football in his entire life, apparently is fun to watch, according to Matt Rule. He says he likes to get popcorn. I think that was just something that he said. I don't think he really gets popcorn and watches his punter kick, but he's never actually kicked in a real game. So Arrowhead Stadium, August 28th will be the first time that he actually kicks a football. That's got to be crazy. Thinking about it. He's an Australian rugby player. He's always played rugby all of his life, or been in a kicking program. So he's never played college football, especially in the States. Nebraska gets him. Apparently, it's the real deal. We'll see if that's the case on August 28th. We all know the special teams are a major concern over the past couple of years. Ja'Cory Barney, Andrew Marshall, looks like Isaiah Mosey, and Caleb Benning will all return punts and kicks for Nebraska this year. Battles at left and right tackle continue. Gunnar Gatula and Elijah Pritchett are battling at the left tackle, while Kyler Kanak and Teddy Prohaska are both fighting to win the right tackle job. It's interesting that Coach Rule talked about that. He said whoever wins the left tackle job will probably slide over to the other one will slide over to right tackle. So you got four guys essentially competing for two jobs. So we'll see how that works out. Nebraska's offensive line has not been good over the first couple of years in the Rule area. You'd like to see that yards per play up around 5 and maybe get 150 yards rushing per game. They haven't been close to that the first couple of years under Rule. We'll see if it happens this year. What could be most encouraging for Matt Rule and the gang are the running backs. He said all three have had a great fall camp. Emmett Johnson, of course, was the starter last year. Mekhi Nelson, who's never played for Nebraska. Neither has Isaiah Mosey. But they're all competing for the top 3 positions. Obviously, Emmett is the guy, as Matt Rule said, who has the pelts on the wall. So he's the guy that's proven in the running back room. Then you've got Mekhi Nelson, who apparently has a great first couple of steps, and Isaiah Mosey, who switched from wide receiver to running back. And we'll see how that works out for Nebraska. Rule doesn't seem to be concerned at all. He called that position great to the media yesterday. He talked about the first 5 steps of Nelson being the fastest he's ever seen, and Mosey, he called him a dude. Also said that Emmett Johnson has earned his pelts, mentioned that, and Quentin Ives is still trying to catch up with the others due to a hamstring injury. You know, he injured his hamstring early in fall camp, and he's just not been right all of fall camp. We have former play-by-play announcer, we mentioned this, Jim Rose, will be on the show at 5:25 to talk about Husker football. We'll see what he says about this team. Just talking with him, I think Jim, like myself, and a lot of people who cover Nebraska football have been burned for not just, the last couple of years, but the last 10 plus years talking about Nebraska football. Really, since the Bo Pelini era ended, it hasn't gone well for Nebraska football. There were a few bright spots in the Riley era, but certainly not in the Frost era. In the first couple of years of the Rule era, not great in year number 1, pretty good in year number 2. We'll see if they can get it turned around in year number 3. Moving on to volleyball, Danny Busboom Kelly and the number 1 ranked Nebraska volleyball team held their annual red-white scrimmage in front of 8,400 fans at the Devaney Center, John Cook Arena yesterday. The Red won in 3 straight sets, although they did play a 4th set just to entertain the fans, wanted to make it a little longer. It went 2.5 hours in total, and the Red won the first 3 sets. The White took the 4th set. Rebecca Alec, who Busboom Kelly called the best player in the gym, was the player of the game, according to her. She also won Lifter of the Year. She got emotional talking about it on the court after the game. Really important to her that she was named Lifter of the Year. She had 16 kills, 5 blocks, and hit .433 for Nebraska. Andy Jackson had 9 kills and hit .412. Terea Sigler made a great case to hit opposite of Harper Murray. She's a 6'3" freshman, had 10 kills, but the Huskers are loaded with talent. It's going to be interesting to see the lineup changes because there's so much talent that I just think you could see. For example, Campbell Flynn, really good setter. There's been a battle with Bergen Riley. Bergen Riley is one of the 30 players nominated for Player of the Year. Campbell Flynn, kind of seen as the best setter coming out of high school this year, is competing now for the setter job. It wouldn't completely surprise me, I guess, although it seems crazy to say, if she plays a lot of minutes or maybe takes the starting job away from Bergen Riley. Could that actually happen? Maybe they play two setters. Maybe they go to a 6-2. That could happen, I guess, as well. We'll talk volleyball with Tonia Tauke, former middle blocker for Nebraska volleyball. She was a great one back in the day, and she'll give us her thoughts on Nebraska volleyball. They look really good. They've got 17 players. They had 14 last year. They bring in Adriano, I can't remember her last name, but she's really good, from Italy, one of the top pro players in Italy. And they bring her in, and she had a nice night, but she didn't necessarily look like a starter. Terea Sigler looked really good. She could start. This is a team that is so loaded that it's kind of a good problem, or maybe it is a problem for Danny Busboom Kelly to have, because can you have too much talent? Is it possible you think you could have too much talent?
I don't think it's possible. I mean, if we're looking at the two people in this studio, there's no way.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't know. I just think that when you have All-American after All-American and they keep coming in the lineup, that, it's good for competition. Obviously, every day you show up for practice, you don't know if your job is safe. Mm-hmm. I think that is good. But I just wonder if you keep, somebody plays badly, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and you pull them because they haven't performed well.
Yeah.
I just think it could hurt confidence.
Well, I think the competition between the team is also really important. And I think especially with it being Danny Busboom Kelly, first year at Nebraska, it's seeing how well she can maintain that. I think John Cook did a really a good job with that. But, as you said, there's a bigger team this year. There's going to be more people wanting to give it a go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. I think this team is absolutely loaded. The schedule is really tough, but Nebraska volleyball is the number one ranked team in the country, and we'll see if they can continue it down the road. The Nebraska women's basketball team picked up a high-profile commit over the weekend. Ashlyn Kupal. She's from Wagner, South Dakota, 6'3" forward, ranked as the 31st best player in the class of 2026, while 2024 Sports has her ranked as the 9th best player in the country. Kupal chose Nebraska over offers from TCU, Michigan State, Duke, and Kansas. It'll be interesting to see what happens with all these sports. It was just announced Troy Dannon gave a talk in front of the media on Friday and talked about $20.5 million and where it's going for Nebraska athletics. Good portion of that, probably $14 million, will go to just football.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, you have Nebraska basketball, the men receiving money. The Nebraska women's basketball team gets some cash out of that.
Yep.
And the Nebraska volleyball team
Mm-hmm.
as well. The rest of them, I don't know how it's going to work out. NIL will still exist, but how much will it exist? He talked about that. I don't know. The House settlement with the NCAA doesn't allow direct payments. You can't just go in and buy a player and say, here's some cash. Thanks for playing for Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be, if it's over $600, you've got to earn that money. You've got to prove that you're doing something to earn that money. So it's kind of convoluted. There is still, and Danny and Troy Dannon, I wish I could play some of these sound bites because it was fascinating what he talked about on Friday in front of the media. He said he is concerned about now schools just giving money directly to high school players.
Yeah.
You can still pay high school players directly.
Yeah, that's a little crazy.
That like you're a sophomore in high school and you could just get a check from a college as long as I don't even know if at the end of your senior year, you haven't signed any papers until your senior year.
Yeah.
If you could just say, hey, thanks for sending me $1 million, Georgia.
That's quite a bargaining chip.
But I'm going somewhere else. You
Yeah.
just offered me more money.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how you can circumvent the system right now. You can send money directly to high school kids. So,
yeah, it's I think NIL. it's a very interesting time in college sports right now. I really do think it is.
Yeah.
But who knows? It may pay out. I mean, it may work out.
Well, Troy Dan had talked about it, and I think it's true. You might say, oh, I'm making, or you hear stories about quarterbacks, Dylan Raiola making a certain sum of cash,
Sure.
or Arch Manning at Texas making $3-4 million a year. And maybe it's true and maybe it isn't. Nobody has to prove it right now. There is no salary cap in college sports.
Yeah, there does seem to be a lack of regulation amongst it all. My stepdad, he's a referee, and he played football at Nebraska too, you know, in the pre-era. And that's the one thing he said, is that it is a totally different environment now. It's not really anything like it was before. And I think colleges are having a hard time realizing that too, because right now, if you've got money, you're in a better position.
Yeah. I do think Nebraska might be in a good situation as far as they have the money. They have $20 million. I think there are certain athletic programs throughout the country that are paying athletes and wondering where the next check that they're going to have to write is going to come from.
Yeah.
You hope to have maybe a billionaire stashed away that is, Warren Buffett, I think, is a Nebraska fan, but he doesn't help out Nebraska. He doesn't write checks on a daily basis. Warren, if you're listening, we'd appreciate it. Nebraska would certainly appreciate it.
That we would.
But they don't have that. And there are certain programs that do have that. Now, the Pete family has done a lot with 1890 and helping out Nebraska football and probably Nebraska basketball as well. And one of the things that Troy Dana did talk about is that they raised $70 million this year.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of money.
Which is pretty cool. And you are seeing athletic departments, for example, Iowa State says they're like $147 million in debt, which seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get that far in debt, it's kind of like being $40 trillion in debt, as we are in this country.
We may as well get some more money then.
Do you just start paying interest on $147 million? I mean, where's that money coming from? I mean, how do you pay it back? And athletic departments are cutting people all the time with the hope that someday maybe they get a rich billionaire that just gives them $147 million.
Yeah.
But until that happens, I just wonder where college sports is headed. The computer's not working today.
Yeah.
I blame Brian.
Well, you're not the first person who's done it. A lot of people have. I think what is nice, especially about Nebraska football making this big new training facility, is I hope that it brings more of an emphasis in, we want you to come here for the culture, for what we have to offer you, not for the money. But I mean, Husker fans are some of the greatest fans in college football. I think Nebraska has some of the best resources.
That's another thing that Troy Dan had talked about. Hey, this is a great fan base. What is it? 400 and I don't know how many sellouts consecutively at Memorial Stadium, but you got to win.
Yeah.
Eventually you have to win because it does go away. And when you go 7 straight years without making a bowl game, now they did.
Yeah.
They go to the Pinstripe Bowl. They beat Boston College. That was fantastic. But eventually you've got to win and win at a high level.
Exactly.
And maybe start winning championships, Big Ten championships, or at least competing for Big Ten championships and get in the college football playoff. Otherwise, that money dries up.
It does.
Maybe you become Iowa State at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think Nebraska's headed there. I think Nebraska's got a really good roster. I think NIL allowed them to pay guys like Dylan Raiola, Elijah Pritchett. They got Rocco Spindler, the transfer from Notre Dame, and paid him 6 figures. So I don't think Nebraska's in the danger zone.
Yeah.
But you get to the danger zone if you don't win.
Yeah. I think, as you said, I don't think we're needing to worry about that. I think, especially with last year, finally making it to that bowl game, I think Rule's really got a good roster. He had a good roster last year, but I mean, this is really starting to become his team, his players and everything like that. And so I think, you talk about the fan base. I mean, when I first started going to college and going to football games, you could show up 30 minutes before in the student section and you'd have a good seat. And I mean, now you got to go almost 2.5 hours early just so you can find a seat that you can actually see the field.
Well, I'm a little older than you, maybe a couple of years, maybe 2, maybe 3 years older than you.
You look great.
But when I was going to football games, 70s, 80s, 90s, it was people going 4 or 5 hours before the game. And not only that, they were there until You had 40, 50,000 people in the stands sometimes with, 10 minutes to go in a 63-3 game.
Yeah.
Where Nebraska was just dominating, just hoping they would see the 4-string eye back, and Nebraska football is not that anymore.
Yeah.
They announced sellouts. I understand that. They're still selling out, but you do see pockets during games where they're empty seats.
There does seem to be some waning, I mean, there's people, if it's not a good game in the fourth quarter, they're, and I'm the same way. It's too hot out here. I want to go.
We got a big show today. Jim Rose, former voice of Nebraska football, will be on the show. We've actually got the former voice of Nebraska football and now the new current voice of Nebraska football, Kyle Crooks, will also be on at 6:00 tonight. That's kind of cool.
Very exciting.
I thought, we had Jim Rose on. I'm going to ask Kyle. So maybe we can get Jim Rose to give some advice to Kyle Crooks.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some pressure, obviously. Kyle Crooks, very talented young man, really young, just like 32, but he's replacing a legend.
Yeah.
Greg Sharp is kind of a legend in this state. I think he knows what he's getting into, and I think he's going to be great for Nebraska football. But Jim Rose faced some pressure. He had to replace Kent Pavelka, I believe, back in the day. And Nebraska was winning championships in 94, 95, 97. And he had to go through kind of a leaner time for Nebraska football. So we'll talk a little bit about that and his predictions for the season. Coming up, it's Husker Rewind. Tom Stevens and Mr. Brian Streeter in today for Mike Melby. Back after this.
What if you could unlock over $1 million in personal and business credit? That's exactly what Ray Reynolds can do for you. I'm talking about protecting your family and building your business with $100,000 in personal or business cash credit. And Ray can help you rebuild your credit score to 750. Ray Reynolds isn't just any expert. He helped the security chief of TRW that became Experian, one of the most trusted credit bureaus. If you're looking to get your finances on track, Ray is the man you should call for a 750 credit score. Call Ray at 800-427-5991. 800-427-5991. Join his live webinars and attend his weekly workshops to learn the insider strategies for hitting your personal and business goals. Ready for a 750 credit score and your first $100,000 in credit? Call Ray Reynolds now at 800-427-5991. That's 800-427-5991.
Dear employer,
my name is Phil Martin.
My name is Michael Raskovich.
Ronaldo Bird.
Zach Dizer.
I am writing to express my excitement at the opportunity to join your team.
As someone on the spectrum,
I possess a unique set of skills
that sets me apart from other candidates.
My detail-oriented nature allows me to communicate complex ideas,
to break down data,
to have no fear in meeting new people.
I may communicate in ways that are different from what you are used to.
Structure, routine,
and clear expectation.
Help me do my best work.
My autism allows me to have a perspective that needs to be seen and heard.
It allows me to make the world safer and improve systems in ways others can't.
It allows me to bring people's inner worlds to life with my artwork.
My autism
will bring your team important insights.
Thank you for your consideration.
An autistic inclusive workplace is good for business. It's time to make a change. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/win.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Welcome back. Tom Stevens. Brian is in today for Mike Melby. Mike Melby is on the pit crew at Eagle Raceway. He won't be back until Labor Day.
Wow, that's a long time to be in the pit crew.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's there the entire time.
Oh, okay.
He fixes cars on the weekend. He repairs them on the weekend. And then once the cars are all fixed and ready to go, the season's over. The season ends, I guess, on Labor Day weekend. We're excited to bring in one of the famous voices of Nebraska football. He's a Husker historian and a good friend of mine, Jim Rose. Welcome in, Jim. How are you?
Hey, fellas, how you doing? Great.
Good. Nebraska football, 18 days away, Jim. I think we had you on last year at about this time. I think we both picked 10 wins for this team. Probably a little more cautious this year, even though this is a better team than last year, right?
It's a better team, and it's a softer schedule by a mile. And I just think this is there's just so much kinetic, psychic energy in the air about the program this year that by virtue of the supernatural, we're looking at 9 wins.
Wow. It does seem that Matt Rule is really confident. He talked about the running backs. He feels like he called them all great. You have 2 running backs. You have obviously Emma Johnson, who has experience and had a really good year once Dana Holgerson arrived last year, but he only had 500-600 yards for the season. Then you've got Mekhi Nelson, who's never played a down of football. And then Isaiah Mosey, who just came in, high-profile recruit, but he played wide receiver last year, and he loves them all. Is there something fishy going on, or are you buying all this?
I mean, it is hard to take, given what we've seen over the last 25 years, guys, that you're thinking, wait a minute, hold on. Just dial it back, maybe get both wheels back on the ground. But if you start kind of taking the sum of all the parts and you kind of combine what each of them sort of did, and I'm talking about throughout the roster, not just, for example, as a running back. And by the way, I think Mekhi Nelson, if Emma Johnson is injured, I think Mekhi Nelson, and Quentin Imes is in there, but I think Mekhi Nelson has a chance to be really good. I think he's an outstanding prospect. The key, of course, is going to be, and we just talked about offensive or running back, and that is, are they going to commit to it? Now, if you look at the last 4 games of last year, when Dana Holgerson took over as offensive coordinator, they went from 130 yards per game on the ground to 150.
Yep.
And 150 is good in the Big Ten Conference. If you average 150 yards per game rushing, you're going to win a lot of football games. So if they stick to that mix, then you got to feel good about what they're doing. My question would be, and I think it's a reasonable skepticism, and that is, if you bring in 6 wide receivers, new people to catch the ball, what are they telling them in the process? They're telling them we have an NFL quarterback prospect, we have an NFL left tackle prospect, and usually that spells forward pass. But to comment on the original premise, Tom, and that is, where is this optimism coming from? And to me, you just look at the sum of all the parts, put them together, and if you get a win in the opener, which is going to be harder than people think, but if you get a win in the opener, then you feel like with that schedule, it's very, very easy to generate momentum, which is what Indiana did last year. And I think what they'd like to do is see what Indiana did. And Indiana's, I think, signature win in that run was the win at UCLA. And they were just dominant. And UCLA was not great, but they were, it was UCLA in the Rose Bowl. It was Indiana, which hasn't been good in football since the 60s. So maybe they're thinking, if we can have that one signature win against a quality team with NFL guys on it, then that'll sort of supercharge us. And I think that's what they're hoping for out of the Cincinnati game.
Well, you're talking about Cincinnati, a team that's picked somewhere in the middle of the Big 12, 8 to 12. I've seen anywhere in there. They've got Brendan Sorsby. They've got a rebuild offensive line. They brought in 3 new wide receivers. They've got a coach in Marcus Satterfield who's kind of on the hot seat a little bit. And you're talking, I think where the optimism, to answer your question, comes from, Jim, former voice of Husker football, now part of the morning show at KFAB, has been there for a long time, Husker historian. Where the optimism comes from is year 3, Matt Rule. Everybody just accepts year 3, he did it at Temple. Year 3, he did it at Baylor. And now he's got his culture. He keeps talking about it's a player-led program. Maybe that's where the confidence is coming from.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where it is. he has had good teams in year 3, and Baylor was an example. Now, there were a lot of close shaves in that third year when I think they won 10 and they lost in the Sugar Bowl. Maybe they won the Sugar Bowl. I'm trying to remember. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And there were some close shaves. They had some last-second wins, and you got to have that. And it's not how, but how many. But that optimism comes from his coaching record, which is that we rebuild programs, and we take those programs and turn them into something in the third year, and then we're competitive. And I think that's probably a reasonable expectation this year. Again, I go to the schedule. If you look at the Big Ten, the Big Ten is about Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State at the top this year. And I think Michigan is still in there. And Illinois is very tough.
Yeah.
So you go to those guys and you think, all right, that's the Big Ten this year. Nebraska's playing Michigan at home, Penn State on the road. The Michigan game is early in the season where before you get a bunch of injuries, and again, if momentum is part of this program, it'll be electric in there for that 2:30 game on CBS. Then you've got USC in November in Nebraska. It's a different time of year for them if they have to play in the cold than if you're playing out in the Coliseum.
Good.
So you look at the schedule, and all of the tough games except for Penn State are at home. Michigan State is a trap game. Maryland could be a trap game. We're not sure yet. But they aren't playing Illinois. They're playing Iowa at home. They're not playing Ohio State. They're not playing Oregon. And all of that matters. The Minnesota game is on the road, but it's a Friday night. There'll be 35 or 40,000 people there, of which half will be Nebraska, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
So UCLA is not a tough home field advantage. It just isn't. Not like the rest of the Big Ten.
It does feel like
the conditions, and they're favorable.
Yeah, it does feel like a team that the floor has raised a little bit. The ceiling was always maybe 8, 9, 10 wins. If you win those close games, which you pointed out he did at Temple, he did at Baylor, they were able to make kicks. They were able to play good special teams, and maybe you count on that with Mike Eckler. But I look at the floor, and it doesn't feel like the floor is 4 or 5 wins anymore. It feels like it's 6 or 7.
It's got to be, Tom, it's got to be minimum 6 or 7. If it's anything less than 7, unless there is a massive mitigation because of injury, I think you've got to lose a lot of confidence in the program. You do. They're spending a fortune on transfers. They are, I think, wise about it, but they are not shy about cutting loose money to get guys in here. And the best example of that is the offensive line, where Pritchett is 20-some starts at Alabama. Rocco Spindler played on a national title game team. He comes in with kind of an attitude and an approach that, okay, I don't know what the rest of you guys are doing here, but I didn't come here to lose, which is helpful and I think very healthy. So you're talking about a veteran offensive line. They have not performed great. They have left question marks, but with those 2 additions, you got to feel good about this offense. And we all sort of laughed a little bit because Dylan Raiola came back fat a little bit to spring practice, but by all accounts, he got serious in the offseason, and he's a serious athlete now with a genuine commitment to fitness and the long haul.
so many people stood out. You mentioned Harper Murray. She's probably the best player on the team, but she didn't look like, if you would have said to somebody who didn't know anything about Nebraska volleyball, who's the best player on this team, I don't know who you would have picked last night. Who would you have picked?
I know. I mean, my favorite, my wow was probably the new freshman Cogill or whatever her name is.
She had 10. She had 10 kills, and you didn't even know that she was really there.
It was so wild. Yeah.
It's going to be a fun season to watch.
Yes.
They're number one in the country. Would you have taken them number one in the country over Penn State?
I mean, the problem is that I can't keep straight in my head who transferred where. I just know that Penn State got the big outside freshman, Blondie.
And the number one transfer.
They got the 6'6" right side from Florida.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it feels like Nebraska can be unstoppable, but it's just hard to remember who went where. I want to see them on the line and be like, okay, that girl came from Florida. That girl came from Ohio State. That girl's transferred.
Well, that's the world of transfers. We got to get to break, but we appreciate it, Tonia. We'll talk a lot of Husker volleyball this year. Back with hour number 2 coming up.
50 Husker numbers
15, 10, 5.
in 50 days.
Passes intercepted. Touchdown, Nebraska. Big 6, Tommy Hill.
Counting down to the start of Husker football. This is 50 in 50, presented by Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach.
Today's number is 18. 18 different Huskers caught a pass last year. The longest completion was a 59-yarder from Dylan Raiola to Isaiah Nair.
Dylan gets a snap. Gets hit as he throws down the field looking for Nayor. Makes the catch inside the 15 to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown, Nebraska.
Today's 50 in 50 is 18.
Little things like water, cooling towels, sunblock, and other summer essentials make a huge difference to the unsheltered served at Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach. Donations are needed. Help us help Lincoln this summer by donating at mtko.org. Thank you, Lincoln.
From the sidelines to the saddle, Nebraska Public Media premieres The Last Ride with John Cook, tracing the extraordinary journey of a basketball player who found his calling on a different court. Set against the cinematic backdrop of John Cook's Wyoming ranch, sportscaster Larry Putney talks with the former volleyball coach about his humble beginnings and transformational journey. Watch The Last Ride with John Cook, Sunday, August 10th at 7 p.m. Central on Nebraska Public Media, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live.
When it comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
My son, Ricky, took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me, and I contemplated suicide. My grandson, I was going to have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
From the Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante Studios, we are the voice of Lincoln. KLIN Lincoln. KDK HD3 Lincoln. K257GN Lincoln is 1499.3 KLIN. Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens. Old enough to remember Nebraska's national titles.
Oh, they don't have him yet. Look at Tommy Frazier. How many tackles can one man break? Touchdown.
Yet young enough to remember what they had for lunch.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Tom Stevens and producer Brian Streeter today. Boy, a storm over the weekend. You lost your power.
Yeah. It was a very crazy time, an incredible tempest, one might say.
Trees all down, and I sent my wife out to clean them all up. While I called the appropriate authorities.
Yes.
I did my share of cleanup following the storm, but it was crazy. Just driving to the station today, all the trees that were down, some of them in the street.
It's surreal seeing a tree split in half.
It was surreal. We hope that Kyle Crooks survived the storm. You get storms like this in Florida, Kyle?
Oh, you sure do. They don't come in the form of hurricanes here, but no, I remember I remember the other night just sort of waking up in the wee hours of the morning and hearing this whistling sound. And I said, boy, this sounds pretty serious outside. And I looked outside and saw the winds and saw the lightning flashes. So it reminds you a little bit of Florida. I grew up in New Jersey. We had hurricanes there that were pretty frequent. And then at Florida, they were frequent as well. So hopefully not a whole lot of severe weather that I see here in the next couple weeks here in Nebraska.
That's right. I forget that you grew up in New Jersey, play-by-play voice of Nebraska football, the new play-by-play voice for Nebraska football, Kyle Crooks. I spent 8 years as a play-by-play broadcaster for the Florida Gators, worked for the SEC network, and now will be calling Nebraska football games in the 2025 season. If somebody would have told you that 5 years ago, what would you have said to them?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's been a journey, and every time I hear that voice of Husker football, it's still something that I think takes a little bit to digest. I was at Big Ten Media Days a couple weeks ago, and I was flying home. Somehow I got on one of the two jets home. The players had flown out the next day, and it was me, Coach Rule, his wife Julie, Keith Mann, Haven, who's the senior administrator with football as well. And I was just sitting there, and I said, "How did I get here?" It was one of those moments where you just sort of like pinch yourself. And I've been at just about every practice here, and seeing the scarlet end on the white helmet and the tradition of that helmet, and watching them practice, you're sort of saying, "Wow, like." This is a lot to soak in, but also it seems like it's taking forever to get this season started and get that first broadcast. But of course, there's a lot of emotion around this position, especially with Greg Sharp, and so beloved in this area, and with all of Husker Nation. That's sort of the added weight to this position, right? But I've loved Lincoln for the first month that I've been here, and it's been a lot to take in for sure.
Obviously, you're going to be doing play-by-play with Damon Benning, who knows a lot about Nebraska football. He'll guide you through things and help you with the prep. But what is it like going to practice every day and get to know Coach Rule and the players? What's that like?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing for me as a play-by guy now stepping into a brand new program is you have your little flip card, and I've essentially done, I'd say 95% of what my spotting charts are going to look like for both teams. I think that just comes with the excitement of the position and getting that first real big opportunity here at Nebraska. So, when I'm going to practice, I get the chance to talk to administrators, see Troy Dannon out there at practice, see Coach Rule. It's more seeing the assistant coaches in their elements, with three new coordinators and Dana coming on for his first full year as the OC, and John Butler getting that promotion, and seeing the energy of a guy like Mike Eckler. And then, for me, it's okay. What does the depth look like? I think everybody has a pretty good idea of what that starting 11 is going to be, aside from a few positions on both sides of the ball. But in my position, when you get to go to a lot of practices, you see what the twos and what the threes look like. You see what special teams looks like, which I know has been a big issue here at Nebraska for many years now. So you're just seeing that the guys build that foundation pretty early on, which is pretty cool.
You are now the play-by-play voice of Nebraska football. Have you done it for Florida? Obviously, that's a fan base that's rabid, similar to Nebraska. How do you compare the two fan bases?
Yeah, I think similar in a sense of the passion for it. I would say not many compare to Nebraska from an all sports standpoint. A lot of people ask me what has stood out about Nebraska, or what did I know about Nebraska before coming here outside of the football rich tradition of the 90s. I was born in 91, so it wasn't necessarily in the prime of my football watching years. I was 3 years old when they won that championship in 94. So it's more of you're watching YouTube clips and you're watching highlights growing up. But Nebraska, I was at the volleyball scrimmage yesterday, and you see they sold out at inter squad scrimmage, and you're saying, what the heck is going on here? But it just shows every sport matters here, and hosting sports nightly, and you're seeing the the interaction that you have on a weekday basis of talking to all the fans out there, getting fan mail of, I had fan mail from a newspaper back in the 90s when Aaron Taylor won the Outland Trophy. I had that sent to my office, and I'm getting all these books sent to me from fans. And I think from my perspective, right, the fan bases are similar in their passion specifically for football. But, when I look at it and I see how everybody is all in on the radio side of it, that was one of the things that I talked to Troy about, Playfly about, is radio is one of those mediums, Tom, and I'm sure you know this, that it's probably not as popular, you would say, than it was in the 90s when Ken Pavelka was calling games and Lyle Bremser was calling games. But there still is that unique passion for the radio medium and the radio broadcast here in Nebraska that I think is just, it's not comparable at most places. And I think that's what makes this, at least from my standpoint, and what this fan base brings, super unique.
Yeah, they have, I think Nebraska fans feel a connection to the play-by-play voice of Nebraska football. They certainly had that with Lyle Bremser as I was growing up. Jim Rose, we just had him on in hour number one of the voices of Nebraska football. Asked him to give you some advice. He says, when you're in Rome, you got to wear the toga. I don't know what that means, but I kind of know what it means. I think
wave those pom-poms, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love. Paul Allen, for example, play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm a big Vikings fan. I'm a homer. I like to hear that version of it. How would you describe your style?
Yeah, I think especially at Florida, there's an understanding of what that looks and sounds like as a team radio announcer. When you're flipping the channels, you as a radio listener, people consume the game so many different ways now, whether it's on their phones or in stadium frequency, that you're listening to your guy. Like Paul Allen, when you turn on a Vikings game on KFan and in Minnesota, and you listen to him, like, he is your guy. He lives and breathes, and it's part of his soul.
Yes.
And I think that's when, I understand from an outsider perspective, people say, oh, this guy was born and raised in New Jersey. He worked at Florida in the SEC, but I could tell you I'm as all in as I possibly could be. I look at it this way, this is my dream growing up, right? I wanted to be a play-by-play broadcaster for a big college. I wanted to represent a community, and Nebraska, Troy Dannon, they gave me that opportunity. I'm somebody who's very big on loyalty, and you get a chance to meet and interact with the coaches and the players. They become part of your everyday. Greg Sharp was somebody who came from Kansas State, and he became the fabric of Nebraska. He became what it meant to be a Husker. And that's only something that can happen over time. I could tell you this, when you turn on the radio in Kansas City and you listen to that first game, you're going to hear somebody that is all in on the Huskers and wants the Huskers to win.
I love it. I didn't know this, but when I started looking at your bio, May 29th is your birthday. That's my birthday. We're both Geminis. Okay. We're only 30 years apart. But you grew up in New Jersey. Does that mean you were a Giants fan?
No, my dad was. We had my brother was a Saints fan. My other brother was a Giants fan. I had a couple Giants fans. So I have three older brothers, two Giants fans, one Saints fan, and I'm a Colts fan. As odd as that sounds, so, the early Peyton Manning years, they'd play the Jets when they were in the AFC East twice a year, so we'd get them in our local TV market. They were on those, big primetime games when Peyton would play Marino, and I don't know what it was. I just got super invested in the franchise, and I've been an Indianapolis Colts fan ever since. But I can empathize with Giants fans and Jets fans, and even right now, I'm a Yankees fan. Yankees and Mets fans, they're going through it right now on the baseball side of things. So sports in New York, not gone so well.
You obviously called a lot of sports. Your favorite sport to call, I'm guessing, is football.
Yeah, football. I was born and raised in it. My dad was a coach. I remember growing up, I used to draw plays, and I used to have a clipboard and stand on the sideline as my dad would coach our local 8th grade football team. I just would live and breathe it. And I would say, football, and I got a chance to do a lot of basketball at Florida. I love I think for me, football and basketball are the top two. For me, football, especially college football, the pageantry and the tradition that you get in a college game, just for football in general, walking around, seeing the tailgates, how it's more of an event than, say, a basketball or a baseball. I love how hard and how commanding it can be to call a football game, and how much work goes into getting really good at that and learning your preparation process and what that looks like. It's probably the most demanding of all the sports when it comes to preparation, just from the sheer number of guys that you have on a roster, especially a college roster. So I love it.
What about volleyball? Have you gotten to know Nebraska volleyball as of yet?
Yeah, so I was learning. I'm learning now. I didn't get a chance to do a whole lot of volleyball broadcasted at Florida, but I know how big it is here, and I know I'm going to have to talk a lot of it on Sports Nightly weeknights on the Husker Radio Network. But I was at the inter-squad scrimmage yesterday, and like I said at the start of this conversation, I just, people say, just wait. When you go to your first Husker volleyball event, you'll just see the mystique of what it is. And boy, they were spot on. And it wasn't even a real match in the sense that they weren't playing somebody else. They were playing their own uniform.
Yeah.
And to have 8,000 plus in John Cook Arena, I know they're expanding the, what that's going to look like. I believe they're going to over 10,000 in that arena. They're going to play some games down the street from where I have my apartment here at Pinnacle Bank Arena. So I'll walk down there and, watch some of that opening weekend and see them in person and how tough their schedule is this year. It is super unique. There is nothing like Nebraska volleyball. A lot of people talk about football and men's basketball. But for me, volleyball here is right up there with some of the big programs and traditions in the country.
It's crazy. When they were in the Coliseum, it was like 6,000 fans, and they were talking about moving to the Devaney Center, which had, you can get up close to 9,000, maybe 10,000 if you want to jam them in with a shoehorn. And I was thinking, that's crazy. You never get that many fans for a volleyball game. I kind of think if you did regular games at PBA, fans would show up and sell out. I mean, Nebraska volleyball is crazy in the state and the number one ranked team in the country. It'll be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, very fun. And I look forward to maybe the day that they're back in Memorial for a match or something like that.
Yes.
To experience that in person like they, like
90,000
ago.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
The biggest women's event of all time, 90,000 in Memorial Stadium last year. And then Garth Brooks as well. That was so much fun. You mentioned Sports Nightly. You'll be working with Jessica Cootie. How much is sports talk a big part of your repertoire?
Yeah, I grew up listening. We talked about our New York connections, right? That I had in New Jersey, that area. Mike and the Mad Dog was the biggest influence on me growing up. So one of the biggest sports talk shows in the history of the medium sort of helped create what we see now with sports talk shows in all these different markets. Mike and the Mad Dog was the foundation of a lot of it on WFAN. So for me, I think probably until I was maybe, 16 or 17 years old, that's when the tide turned for me of I wanted to call games and as opposed to being a sports talk host. But the first thing I ever did into a microphone was junior college. Before I went to a 4-year university, I was doing my own little sports talk show at County College of Morris, doing my NFL picks the way that Mike and the Mad Dog used to do it with NFL Films music underneath, pretending like I was, people cared that I had the Saints covering 5.5 points. But it was my way to talk into a microphone. And that's probably what got me into broadcasting more than anything. Was Mike and the Mad Dog and sports talk in the New York, New Jersey area. It
makes me feel better about myself knowing that I'm not crazy, because I kind of grew up the same way. I would call play-by-play for my own pickup games in the driveway. So I probably had a problem, but it's okay. It led me to radio, and it led me to you. And good talking to you, Kyle. I think this is going to be a fun ride for you, and hopefully a very, very long ride.
Yeah, Tom, thank you so much for having me. And this is it is truly an honor. You can't understate what this job means and what this position means to so many people around this area. And I'm grateful for it. I do not take it for granted. And I can't wait to chat more with you and be on this station a little bit more. We appreciate you for being such a great affiliate, and look forward to chatting soon. And can't wait for Casey.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
All right.
There you go. Kyle Crooks, the new play-by-play voice of Nebraska football. Good guy.
He is a very nice guy.
Yeah, I enjoyed that conversation. Did some Florida Gators basketball. Obviously, they were very good at Florida. But so, you leave that, you leave the football tradition of Florida football. But he's a New Jersey guy. He grew up in New Jersey and wanted to be in a big time program. And what happens in his first, second, third year of the program that he maybe announces a college football playoff game for Nebraska?
Yeah,
that would be so cool.
I think he's in for a fun ride.
Yeah, I think so as well. Kyle Crooks, new voice of Nebraska football. Boy, some tough shoes to fill. Obviously, Greg Sharp, good friend of our family, such a great guy, and he will be missed. And Kyle sounds like the right guy to fill the job at just the right time. It's fun having that conversation. Let's get to break. Come back with more. It's Husker Rewind on KLIN.
Save big and everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. Finish your outdoor wood projects with Cabot Premium Wood Care products.
$1,399.3 KLIN.
Been a fun show despite the computer hiccups today. The storms hit our computer along with all the trees in Lincoln. Mess, but we've gotten through and nobody's passed away on the air yet.
And success is success, no matter how small.
That's right. That I've always said that. Actually, I've never said that, but I'm saying that. For the
you
first
did
time.
just now.
I just said it.
There we go.
Success is success. Had a good show so far. Jim Rose, former voice of Husker football. We had the current voice of Husker football with Kyle Crooks, Tonia Tauke talking Husker volleyball, And now we welcome in a legend, Steve Sipple of Husker Online. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I just took a bite of steak, which is embarrassing.
Oh,
But,
that's okay. What kind of steak? Are you picky about your steak? It has to be, ribeye or something like that?
no, sirloin.
Sirloin. So that's the bottom of the. I'm the same way. I don't care if it's a little tough. If it's steak, it's still steak. Did I interrupt dinner time? I'm famous for that.
No.
Oh. Was that grilled or just you throw it in the microwave?
I will not throw steak.
You probably wouldn't live through that experience.
I didn't know what to make of that question.
I mean, I suppose it's been done. People have thrown steak. I know my sister once boiled a steak, and she thought it was pretty good. I get that. No, I don't really, but she did it, and she said it was wonderful. But people are crazy. Stephen M. Sipple of Husker Online. There's been a lot of Kool-Aid. I thought there was a lot of Kool-Aid delivered. You heard it from Matt Rule after yesterday's practice. He says he's got 3. I wish I could play the soundbite, but again, the computer. But 3 running backs he considers great. It was a question mark going into the season for us, Sip. And now he's saying he's got 3 great running backs. Do you believe that?
It's still a question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate Matt, and Matt is really a champion of his players, and some of that is it's born of the world. I mean, it's born of the way the world works now, which is just, it's just social media can just tear you apart.
Yeah.
Tear players apart. And he's cognizant of it. He's cognizant of the reaction of some players. So he champions them. Yeah, he hears the talk like that. Maybe that's that maybe that room's not, I'll just say where it needs to be. So he hears it, and that's his response. Now, the thing is, he does see him in practice. So I imagine there's at least a certain amount of validity to what he's saying. We'll find out.
I mean, I don't think you have a Dante Dowdell in that room, do you? I mean, a 3rd and 1 guy as of yet?
Ives could be. I don't think so, though, on Ives, though. I'm not looking for Ives to run behind his pads like Dowdell did. Dowdell really did that. You can say what you want about Dowdell. He ran behind his pads. His deficiency was at the 2nd level. He doesn't make anybody miss. But he was so good. He was so good just ripping into the line. I mean, his explosion. Do they have anybody with that explosion? No. I mean, maybe Mekhi Nelson, but just not nearly as big.
Yeah.
Mekhi Nelson, I think you'll see, like Rule said, he gets the, what did he say? I don't know. He gets the
first 3 steps faster than anybody's ever seen.
Yeah, and I've heard that about him. He runs with a bandit. I think we're gonna like what we see there. But yeah, I mean, Rules. I just go back to what I said. He champions his guys. And
yeah, but you think, but I mean, there's championing your guys and being honest about what you see. And I think he's not lying when he says some of the stuff that he says, but he's also said on the same hand, these guys get criticized enough. I think he said that at the start of the camp. These guys get criticized enough. I'm not going to be the one to do that. So you think he's compensating or he really believes all of this?
I think both things can be true. Like in this world, that's a lot of this. It's not necessarily cut and dry. I think he believes it. You can convince yourself of things, but I think he genuinely believes it. I don't think he's being dishonest. I think that's the way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think he's being dishonest, but I think the best way to put it is he's giving them the benefit of the doubt where, a lot of cynical people, like myself.
Yeah, me too.
I don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt.
Well,
So-
we've been burned too many as Husker, as a Husker beat writer, as a Husker columnist in the past, and you cover Husker football full time on the radio, and you write about them. You've been burned. We've all been burned.
Right. So that's not that's not for Matt Rule to worry about. But I think he does. He hears. He pays attention to what people are saying, and he hears that narrative about the running back room and about the D line, and but more important, he knows his kids hear it. He knows those players hear it, and he's made it clear that even in the NFL, that sort of noise bothered them and affected them,
right?
And ultimately probably affected their confidence, which then affects their play, which then affects the head coach. So there's a strategy. I think there's a bit of a strategy there, and I would say I applaud it. It's fine.
I don't know if
it all comes out in the walk.
Yeah.
It will. It'll all come out, and we'll see.
We talked about this in hour number 1 with Jim Rose. It feels like the floor has risen a little bit for Nebraska football. What is your ceiling and floor for football this year?
It has. It's interesting. I hear Joel Klatt saying they're a dark horse college playoff team. My ceiling's 10. My floor, it's a wide gap, 5.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a wide gap.
I picked 10 last year. I don't think I'm going there this year.
No, that's what I say my ceiling is. Everything, they would have to get all of the right balance to get to 10, I think. All of them.
What are you most confident with the 3 assistant coaching changes and some of the personnel moves that Matt Rule and his staff have made? What do you feel most confident about with this team?
The offense. I mean, I just say, it's broad, but the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And if I tried to narrow it for you, I would go to Dylan and Holgerson 1, Dylan 2, and then offensive line 3, and then weapons 4. They have some guys. They definitely do. But the big thing is they have a high level OC, a high level thinking quarterback, and close behind an offensive line that I think looks really good. And
I would agree.
That's why I'm optimistic.
It was interesting what Rule said too about the tackle positions. You have Gunner and Elijah Pritchett fighting it out on one side. Then you have Tyler Kanak on the other side fighting out that position. He says you got 4 guys that could play offensive tackle. Tyler fighting with Teddy Prohaska, and then the loser of the left tackle position will probably go to the right side. You've got some serious depth, it looks like.
Oh, yes. Particularly at tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, Turner Corcoran could be in that conversation.
Yeah, he's just getting back.
Yeah, probably will get back, and I think he'd help with guard depth more. You don't really need him at tackle. So you're right. You're exactly right. They're in good shape up front, and all of that conversation about the tackles aside, I feel best about 3 interior guys. I think that's where your strength is.
Which one? Which?
I'd rank them Evans, Latofsky. Well, no, I'd go Latofsky, Evans, Spindler. That's how I'd rank him. Latofsky's I think he's going to have what we would characterize as a sort of breakout season. He really started playing well in the second half of last season. He carried it into the off season. And I think he might be their best lineman.
He's big.
Right. Yeah, right. Now he's big and good. And he's he's come a long way since the middle of last season.
Yep. Stephen M. Sipple of Husker Online is our guest. Usually if you have a team that wins 10 games, and if that is their ceiling, that's what I think. It's probably 9 or 10. You probably have an all-conference performer, first or second team anyway. We talk about star power sometimes with this team. Do they have a first or second team? Or are you going to need to see that? A first or second team, all-league type guy?
I think there's a few that you'd say are legit and they have a chance. Latovsky's one. I think Evans is one. Maybe even Rocco. He is definitely one. I'm just thinking, do I go on defense too?
Well, who's the best defensive player that Nebraska has?
I'd say Singleton. The way Rule has talked about his draft potential.
Yeah.
Deshaun Singleton comes to mind. I think that you'd have to put. I think ultimately, and I'm going back to things that Terrence Knighton used to tell me about Keona Davis. I think that if he's not that guy, he's going to be close. I think you'll see him sort of. I don't know about breakout. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say with those young lines. I always remind people that Sue wasn't. We weren't talking about Sue as a sophomore. Keona Davis is a sophomore.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about Ty Robinson at all as a sophomore, except that he's got a long way to go. That was a discussion then. I mean, Robinson wasn't really good till year 5 and 6.
Is Van Poppel on that track, you think? A Ty Robinson type track?
Long way to go there. But yeah, probably on the track. As far as the other defensive guys, that I think Sierra Wright could be that sort of player, that second team type guy. It's hard though at corner. I mean, as Sean Callahan always says, it's so right. It's so hard to get on the first or second team with Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State.
18 teams. Yeah.
Yeah, they load those teams up. So
yeah.
But I'd like to see someone pop in there. Just Corey Barney on special teams as a special teams return man, all purpose guy. I think Corey Barney definitely is a guy.
Sierra Wright.
Yeah, Sierra Wright for sure is a guy you hope. So yeah, they do have some players like that. Better. The roster, I was saying that to someone the other day, it's not where it needs to be in my opinion. But it's getting there. When I say it's not where it needs to be, it's still not like with those teams we mentioned. In my opinion, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. We'll see on Michigan. It's not quite there. But I'll tell you one thing. It's getting closer.
Yeah.
And that's very discernible when you watch them.
If Rule did have anything negative to say, it might have been the tackling. He talked about the tackling needing to be better, and he said part of that is the running backs are really, really good and they're tough to tackle. But it's a conversation it seems like we have every year. How do you get good at tackling if you don't tackle all the time? And with NCAA rules, it's hard to tackle maybe as much as you want. But as Rule mentioned, you usually win game 1 by good tackling and special teams. How concerned are you about the tackling?
I mean, I think that's just a conversation that goes on all over America this time of year because the NCAA limits the amount of padded practices so dramatically now. 9, they get 9 full padded practices. I don't know how many times you can tackle to the ground, but it's not much. So I don't worry about it because everybody's in that boat. When he talks like that, I think it's just more of a big picture type discussion. Not that they don't have the guys that. I don't think he's saying. I wonder if we have the guys that can tackle well. I think it's more we just got to get work in. We got to really be smart in these final 9. I think he said not many practices left in preseason camp. So it's I think 5. What he considers camp.
There you go.
People look at that differently, but what he's saying is you've really got to lock in on it in these final weeks before the game.
Troy Dannon spoke on Friday night, spoke a lot about NIL and revenue sharing and the budget crisis at the university and the need to put the Memorial Stadium project on hold. What was the biggest thing, though, that he said that stuck out to you?
It was that the football program needs to win, and he doesn't, he didn't do a Bill Moose where he put a kind of a win total out there, but he made it very clear that it can't go on the way it is and expect that it's not going to have serious financial ramifications. It's not, you got to start winning. And that.
But then they wouldn't put a number on it either. What is winning?
No, I thought it was a good spiel. I thought he handled the stadium issue. Stadium issue meaning he's put it on hold, and I don't know when they're going to be able to do it. I don't know, and when I say do it, I mean the next step would be going to the regents with a defined plan. When would that be? Could it be this fall? Could it be, if they get to 4-0, right?
Right.
Would that be a perfect time to go to the regents?
That's a good point. You got it. Maybe that's what he was talking about when he was talking about winning. Hey, you can't build a new stadium and be or be 2-2 to start the season.
Exactly. That's why I regard this season as gigantic. Now, I will say this, Tom. I don't mind saying it. What I've heard here, I don't think he'll go to the regents in the fall. I don't. Now, I could be wrong. That's just source type stuff. But I was in the mindset of, hey, if they get to 4-0, I think there's a regents meeting right in that time period.
Yeah.
That's when you do it. Not so fast. I don't know. I don't know if that'll happen because of what's going on campus.
It was interesting what he said about NIL, and nobody really knows with the House settlement where NIL is going. But he mentioned that a lot of schools are circumventing the system by paying high school recruits directly. I don't think Nebraska is doing that, but that's kind of scary. They got to get that solved quickly.
Yeah, I don't quite understand that discussion at a level like some people do. I know they call it front loading, and there was a pile of money spent before the House settlement was enacted. So, I understand it at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a ton of money that went to high school players that you won't be able to do that now. So yeah, some schools kind of took advantage of the situation. And I don't think Nebraska did that at any level. At any discernible level. Nebraska plays by they play by the book.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing it. I think they're doing a good job across the board, really. I really am impressed in particular with Dannon and Rule, the way they navigate this stuff. I thought Dannon's appearance was fabulous. He's a strong leader who understands the issues as well as anybody.
And at the right time. He seems like he's the right leader at the right time. Mentioned Nebraska's schedule. A lot of people like it. They started with Cincinnati, Arrowhead Stadium, a game that could have been played at Cincinnati. Cincinnati chose to move it to Arrowhead and make a little more money. A lot of Nebraska fans seem to be concerned about that game. Cincinnati's a team that's picked anywhere between 8th and 12th in the Big 12, which is a 16-team league now. But how concerned are you about that game?
Tom, we're older. We've seen a lot of openers, and openers can get weird. And from that standpoint, you're always a little concerned. I can't say I'm terribly concerned. I think Nebraska can put up a decent number on offense.
Yeah.
And I think and then the other part of the thing we haven't discussed at all. We don't need to discuss, but I was going to mention it. I think Nebraska's special teams could be a difference maker, particularly in that game against a team that they didn't have an offensive coordinator, a special teams coordinator in the spring. Or if they did, they got a new one in May. So it's sort of odd. And I think that might be advantage Nebraska. I think one of the things that will really define this season is we're going to be going, wow, they're good on special teams.
Yes. And in fact, Rule talked about getting the popcorn. He's never watched special teams in his life, according to him. And now he can't stop watching Archie Wilson, who is the rugby-style kicker, who's never kicked in a college football game, and is going to be kicking in front of 66,000 fans at Arrowhead Stadium. But he seems like he's really hyping up. He's hyping up a lot of stuff, but Archie Wilson is one of them.
Yeah, that's one of the things. But also, I think they're solving they had to solve the operation, the place kicking operation.
Yeah. Which he says is good.
Yeah, it looked good. It certainly looked good during the open practice that we saw. And then it looked good on Saturday. That's a good sign. Yeah, the punter is there's a lot of confidence in Archie Wilson within the program. It's not just Rule. There's a lot of guys. All those guys are confident in it. Corey, they're confident in as a return man, as a punt return man. Eckler, I know, feels very good about just the overall athleticism that he gets to have on those teams. I mean, I'm not going to say anything crazy. I just expect it to be better, and that's not crazy because it can't get worse. But I think it could be markedly better.
Well, if you can imagine, I mean, just blocking in protection, making tackles on special teams, being able to consistently catch punts, maybe return a punt for 15, 20 yards, that would change things dramatically because special teams has been so bad for Nebraska for so long that just mediocre to good special teams could maybe win you 2 games. It feels like.
Yeah, I think that Eckler and Holgerson are worth a lot. And I think we'll see it. I think we'll see it soon. It's kind of one of those things where I've heard people say that cover other teams and been part of other teams. It's gotten to the point with Nebraska where I'll just be surprised if they're not good. I know people get so tired of hearing it this time of year, but that's what I'm saying. I'll just be surprised.
I think I'm with you. And I drank the Kool-Aid last year. It finally turned around, I guess, at the end of the season. But man, there were parts of the season last year, and special teams was the big one for me that were really hard to watch. If they get that one part solved, even the win against Boston College, special teams were a disaster.
They were. I would just say this though. It always comes back, and this is just evening out the discussion, so people just don't think we're so full of Kool-Aid. It's going to come down to winning close games again. That's just what this world is now in college football.
That's Dylan Raiola. That's Dylan.
Yeah, I don't put it all on him, but it is. It's a lot about winning the close games.
Yeah.
You know, like your season, for instance, it could really not be defined, but it would be large. It would go a long way towards defining the season. I think if Nebraska could beat Michigan, but I don't think they'll blow out. I think if you beat Michigan, you'll win a game that's within 7 points. So that's what I mean. And there's other games in there. A lot of them. I don't think like you go on the road. Like you're not going to go to Minnesota and win by 20 points.
No.
If you beat them at all, you'll probably just barely beat them.
Blowing out Minnesota is a 7-point win because they just played that way. So does Iowa.
Minnesota completely has Nebraska's number. So yeah, you're going to go there, and if you beat them at all, it'll be close.
Yep.
So that's that thing.
Just kind of the way the Big Ten is designed. It's designed for a lot of close games. That's the way a lot of coaches play, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. This interview has to end. You got to get back to your steak. I'm getting hungry. I think I want steak.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That sounds really good for dinner. Sirloin? Did you grill it?
I got it at Outback.
At Outback. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. I do like. I've never actually had Outback steak. You're a chain restaurant guy. But that's the only. You kind of are a chain restaurant guy. Admit it.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Not that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, no shame in that. The bloomin' onion is great.
I like their steak. I have actually had it thinking about the last time I hosted a radio remote when I worked here in the early 2000s at Outback.
The Roosevelt years.
Yeah, the Roosevelt years. So I actually have had an Outback steak. It's delicious. It was a good call on your part. We'll talk to you soon, Steve, as the season gets closer. We read all your stuff. We love it. We listen to your show, even though we can't say the name of it on the airwaves right now.
Well, I appreciate the conversation. It was rapid fire, and I like that. So have a good one, okay?
There you go. Stephen M. Sipple, Husker Online. We appreciate talking to Steve. He's the best in the business. Let's get to break. Come back with one final segment. We're going to do a Cincinnati preview.
Ooh.
What are we going to see from the Bearcats this year? We'll do that next.
You're listening to Husker Rewind. Sean Hannity is next on 1499.3 KLIN.
Big thanks to our guest, Jim Rose, former voice of Husker football with KFAB, Husker historian, written a couple of books on Nebraska football. He was fantastic, as always. Kyle Crooks, I should say, new play-by-play voice of Husker football, was with us. We had Tonia Tauke, former Husker volleyball star, talking Husker volleyball, and Stephen M. Sipple of Husker Online. Good show. And our producer, big thanks to Brian Streeter in producing the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. This has been a great time.
Yeah, really? A great time.
I mean, I would rather be at a water park, but this is a close second option.
I was a little concerned when Sipple called my questioning rapid fire. It seemed a little violent to me, but that's okay. I think he meant it as a compliment.
Yeah,
to some degree.
Yeah, you've done a great job.
Nobody has passed away on the air tonight. It was not the easiest show for us to do. We did have some malfunctioning due to the weather.
Yeah.
As of late, the engineer was in here. He said, well, it's just due to the weather. In fact, I see stuff not firing, but there's computer type right now on the computer saying, this is serious stuff. You better do something about it, or I'm going to cause living hell.
And you and I are going to ignore that.
We're going to ignore it like we always do, because the show will be long over by the time that happens.
Exactly.
Cincinnati preview. Nebraska's first game is in 18 days versus the Bearcats on ESPN. And of course, right here on 1400 KLIN and 99.3. They, like Nebraska, loaded up in the portal at wide receiver, along with the offensive line and defensive back. Their quarterback is pretty good, at least by the NFL scouts really like Brendan Sorsby.
Yeah.
The college pundits don't love him. I think he's pretty good. He's 6'3", he's 235, he's a big dude. They got out of the portal a wide receiver named Jeff Caldwell, who's 6'5". He's a transfer from Lindenwood, but he's got a big body. Little concerning. They also got Curtis Allen. Much like Nebraska, they grabbed some guys out of the portal. Nebraska grabbed two big high-profile wide receivers in Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter out of the portal. They got three of them. Curtis Allen's from Texas A&M. Caleb Goody is from Colorado State. All three thought to be major upgrades for Brendan Sorsby at wide receiver. Sorsby, as I mentioned, a big guy, 6'3", 235. He threw for 2,800 yards last year, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks, completing 64% of his passes. He's also a good runner. Now, this is something that we hope that we're going to see more of from Dylan Raiola this year.
Yeah.
A little more elusive, the ability to move in the pocket, and when it's 3rd and 7 and everybody's covered, to run and get a first down. Sorsby has been doing that for a while. He ran for 447 yards, 9 TDs, averaging 4.3 a carry. If you told me that Dylan did that this year, I'd be ecstatic about that. I don't think he needs to even do that. Just get positive yards and move the chains when he needs to. But Sorsby can really do that. He's a very mobile dude. His favorite target probably will be Caldwell out of the portal. 6'5" body, big frame, might be a tough matchup for Nebraska's secondary. Their running back is a name that Nebraskans know. He is Tyree Walker, who is a transfer from Wisconsin, had success while he was at Wisconsin, now transfers to Cincinnati. Seems like, at least 10% of your roster is going to jump in the portal these days.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. So everybody's getting guys from the portal and they're losing guys to the portal. Cincinnati's no different from that. They run a 3-3-5 defense, just like Nebraska. And they have one of the best defensive tackles in the country in Dante Corleone. He's a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like in the neighborhood of 6'3", 330.
Yeah.
So he will play in the NFL. He'll eat up 2 offensive linemen. Nebraska's offensive line, I think, is really good. We just talked about that with Stephen M. Sipple. I think Nebraska's got Justin Evans, great center. I think that they've got 2 offensive tackles that are going to be really good. Who do they pick? Elijah Pridgett? Do they pick Gunnar Gatula? Tyler Kanak? Is it, Teddy Prohaska? They've got a lot of different names, but they're going to have their work cut out for them with Dante Corleone. However, they did have to hit the portal. They lost their 2 best cornerbacks in the portal, did Cincinnati, and had to go in the portal. They got a good name, though. This guy's name is Matthew McDoom.
Ooh, That's ominous.
Now that's a good football name. I mean, if I were going to play football at a high level, I would change my name to Matthew McDoon.
Yeah. I mean,
wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think it works. It gets the job done.
The only thing better than McDoom is nothing. There's nothing better than McDoom.
McDoom or bust.
That's right. Considered one of the top quarterbacks in the country, came from Coastal Carolina. They also got a Tennessee transfer in Christian Harrison. He can play all three positions in the secondary. Nebraska is, though, currently a 6.5-point favorite. Would you take Nebraska and the points?
I would take Nebraska. I mean, you and I were talking during the break. This is the first time these teams have played each other since 1906. And, you have to mention they're playing at Arrowhead Stadium.
1906 was the last time they played.
1906. Would you believe that? Isn't that crazy? But, I mean, there's no really home field advantage here.
Nebraska started playing football in, 1880, 1890? 1890.
Yeah,
that's why 1890. That's why they have the 1890 thing.
Yeah.
So there you go. 1906, the last time. I did not know that. Good research
What
by
can I say?
You and your research department there, Brian Streeter.
Thank you. We're well funded.
Scott Satterfield is their coach. He is 8-16 going into his fourth season with the Bearcats. He's considered to be on the hot seat. And why wouldn't you be? He's 8-16.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Scott Frost type record.
Yeah, it's a dangerous place to be in for sure.
Yeah. And he's he needs to win 7 games.
Yeah.
Which is probably what Frost needed to win when he was at Nebraska and didn't get it done. And he was fired. And that's the reason Matt Rule is here now. The other stops for the head coach, Satterfield, were Louisville and Appalachian State. He's got a good record overall as a head coach, 84-64. Most of those wins, however, came at Appalachian State. Mm-hmm. He was fired at Louisville. He moved from Appalachian State to Louisville. He was fired there and then moved on to Cincinnati. Considered a pretty good hire. I think he's a pretty good coach, but you got to recruit. Mm-hmm. And now he's in the Big 12.
Yeah.
It was a little easier when he was in the American. Or when I should say, Cincinnati was in the American. They were one of the better teams in college football with Luke Fickell.
Yeah.
You wonder if Luke Fickell should have left that job, and maybe he should have because they're not good now.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin is not good now either with Luke Fickell in charge. My thought of the game comes down to, can Nebraska make Cincinnati one-dimensional? Stop the run. And I think that's the big question for Nebraska football this season. Can you stop the run? Can you tackle in space? If they can, I feel good about Nebraska's offense. I think Nebraska covers this game, though. I think they win comfortably by 10 points.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. I've got a good feeling about this one.
I had a good feeling about this show, but it's over. Let's go eat steak.
I love that idea.
Brian Streeter, we appreciate you producing the show. Now we're going to leave, and then we'll be back next week. Mike Melby will not be here next week. He won't be back till Labor Day, so I'll be doing the show. You should come back.
I would love to.
Come back. We'll do the show together. It'll be fantastic. We'll talk Husker football and Husker basketball, Husker sports.
What could be better than that?
That's why we call it Husker Rewind. Back next week. See you later. Bye-bye.
At Snyder Shooting Supply, you can get everything you need for shooting. Find custom built